The door doesn't slam. The phone doesn't shatter. The world doesn't end. For the first time in what feels like forever, the silence in this room isn't a threat. It's a verdict. And it's staring back at him from the hollow space he used to occupy. Right now, in the crushing quiet of this empty apartment, the fortress of his own making has become a prison. Every carefully constructed wall, every emotional barricade, every excuse he weaponized to keep you at a safe distance has just become the very architecture of his own solitary confinement. He thought he was building an escape route, but he was actually digging his own grave for connection. And tonight, for the very first time, he is lying in it. The ghost of your absence is more real, more palpable than your presence ever was, and it's screaming one terrifying, life-altering question into the void: what have I done? This is the moment of reckoning. This is the seismic shock that rattles the foundation of a soul built on the premise of I am better off alone. This isn't just about a relationship ending. This is about an identity collapsing. The story he told himself, that he didn't need this, that he was immune to the pain, that his independence was a superpower, is crumbling into dust. And in the debris, a terrifying clarity is dawning. He is not the island he pretended to be. He is a man stranded on one, watching the last ship sail away, finally realizing he was the one who set it on fire. This is not your pain. This is his transformation. And whether you are the one who walked away or the one who embodies this avoidant struggle, what happens in this crucible, silence, defines everything that comes next. The very first thing that happens, the initial psychic tremor that rips through his nervous system, is the catastrophic failure of his primary operating system, control. His entire life, his entire defensive posture, has been a masterclass in managed risk. He believed with every fiber of his being that by limiting exposure, by rationing vulnerability, by holding the reins of intimacy so tightly they cut into his palms, he was the architect of his own safety. He called it independence. He called it strength. He called it self-preservation. But it was always a fortress built on the fault line of a fundamental lie. And tonight, the ground has opened up. That familiar, almost comforting anxiety of potentially losing you is gone. It has been replaced by the terrifying concrete reality that you are already gone. There is no more management to be done. No more strategic retreats to plan. The game board has been flipped over. The control he thought he wielded was an illusion, a puppet master's act where he was the only one holding the strings, dancing for himself in an empty theater. The silence in the room isn't just an absence of sound, it's the presence of a brutal, undeniable truth. He did not control the outcome, he only controlled the depth of the loneliness he would feel when it arrived. Every time he pulled away after a moment of closeness, every time he manufactured a conflict to create distance, every time he withheld the words, I love you, because saying them felt like handing you a weapon, he was performing a ritual he believed would inoculate him against this exact moment. He thought he was building a callus, but he was just thinning his skin so that when the final blow landed, it wouldn't just bruise, it would flay him open. The pain he feels right now is not the pain of a broken heart in the traditional sense. It is the pain of a failed hypothesis. It is the agony of a scientist watching his life's work explode in the lab, realizing his core equation was fatally flawed from the very beginning. The data is in, and it's catastrophic. The hypothesis that I can avoid pain by avoiding love has been proven false. In fact, the evidence suggests the opposite is true. By avoiding love, he has guaranteed a specific, exquisite kind of pain. The pain of regret, of self-betrayal, of witnessing his own hands dismantle the very thing he secretly cherished. This shattering is not a gentle cracking, it is a visceral implosion. You can see it in the way his eyes scan the room, not for you, but for an anchor, for a piece of the old story he can cling to. But the story is dead, the narrative of the self-sufficient loner, the untouchable spirit, the man who didn't need anyone. It's a ghost story now, and he's the only one left to be haunted by it. The control he cherished was a prison warden, and in his quest for freedom from vulnerability, he became his own most diligent jailer. And now, with you gone, he is staring at the empty cell, The door swung wide open, not to a world of liberation, but to the desolate landscape of a choice he already made, a consequence he can no longer control. This is the genesis of his torment. Not your absence, but the stunning, humiliating, world-obliterating realization that he was never in control to begin with. He was only ever controlling the rate of his own descent. In the beginning, the silence feels like a victory, a clean slate. The relentless pressure is off. The constant demand to perform, to connect, to be emotionally available has vanished. For a few fleeting hours, there is a perverse sense of relief. It's the calm after the storm he believed he was weathering. But as the sun sets and the shadows in the apartment grow long, the quality of the silence begins to change. It thickens, it becomes a physical presence, a weight on his chest. This is when the echo begins. It starts not as a memory, but as a sensation. The specific chill of the empty space on your side of the bed, the way the floorboard doesn't creak in the hallway at a specific time because you're not there to walk on it. The absence of the soft, ambient light from your phone screen in the dark, a tiny lighthouse he never realized he navigated by. His senses, once dulled by the noise of his own anxiety, are now hyper-acute, registering every single thing that is not there. His mind, a master of deflection, has lost its target. There is no longer a you to deflect, so it turns inward, and the echo becomes a roar. It's no longer just the silence of an empty home, it's the silence of a connection severed. He'll catch himself halfway through a thought, a joke, an observation he would have shared with you. The mental pathway is still there, well-worn and active, but it now leads to a cliff edge. The thought launches into the void and gets no echo, no response, no validating laughter or clarifying question. It just vanishes. And in that vanishing, the roar grows louder. He'll reach for his phone, his thumb moving on muscle memory to the text thread that was a constant source of low-grade stress, and find it static, frozen, a digital tombstone. The lack of new notifications is somehow more deafening than the constant ping of them ever was. Every object in the room becomes a relic, the coffee mug you liked, the throw blanket you always fought over. They are no longer just objects, they are loudspeakers broadcasting your absence. The echo is in the mundane, cooking for one, the portions suddenly absurdly large. The echo is in the routine, the 8 p.m. check-in call that now exists only as a gap in the evening, a pocket of dead air. His brain begins to torture him with a phantom limb sensation for a person. He feels your presence in your absence. The roar is not one of sadness, not yet. It is a roar of disorientation. His internal map of the world has been redrawn, and all the landmarks are gone. The habits he thought were burdens were actually the architecture of his days. Without them, the structure of his life feels flimsy, ready to collapse. This roar is the sound of his own isolation, becoming real to him for the first time. It was always there, but he had you to blame for it, to project it onto. Now there is no one else in the room. The echo is his own. The roar is the sound of his soul, finally loud enough to be heard over the drama he created to avoid listening to it. The mind, when faced with an unacceptable present, will often retreat to the past, not for comfort, but for an audit. This is not nostalgia, this is a forensic investigation. As the night deepens, a brutal, involuntary inventory begins. It doesn't start with the big moments, the vacations, the birthdays. It starts with the microscopic, almost invisible fragments of shared existence that he didn't even know he was cataloging. The specific way you would hum absent-mindedly while washing dishes, the face you made when you first took a sip of coffee in the morning, the weight of your head on his shoulder while watching a movie, a weight he pretended was a burden but had become a grounding force. His memory, once a tool for justifying his distance by recalling arguments and friction, now becomes a treacherously efficient archive of everything he has lost. He scrolls through it, not with fondness, but with a kind of horrified fascination. He sees your face not in moments of anger, but in moments of patient, quiet offering that he met with a wall. He remembers the times you reached for his hand, and he found an excuse to let go. He remembers the questions you asked, trying to delve deeper into his world that he dismissed as prying. Each memory is no longer a simple data point. It is a piece of evidence in the trial he is conducting against himself. The inventory is exhaustive and cruel in its specificity. He doesn't just remember your laugh. He remembers the one particular laugh that was only for him, the one that sounded like it came from a place so genuine and unguarded it felt like a gift. And he remembers the times he was the reason it stopped. This is the true torture of the inventory. It reframes your entire shared history. The narrative he told himself, that he was trapped, that you were demanding, that the relationship was a source of his anxiety, begins to invert. He starts to see that perhaps the relationship wasn't the source of the anxiety, but the arena for it, and that you weren't the demand, you were the invitation. An invitation he repeatedly declined. The inventory reveals the cost of his emotional frugality. He tallies up the smiles he didn't return, the compliments he swallowed, the vulnerabilities he armored himself against. He realizes he was in a vault of love, but he was so obsessed with the lock that he never allowed himself to spend the treasure. And now the bank is closed. The inventory is a ledger, and for the first time he is adding up the final column. The assets, his pride, his independence, his carefully managed solitude, the liabilities, your laughter, your warmth, your faith in him, your presence in this very room. The balance sheet is catastrophic. He is emotionally bankrupt. And the audit reveals it was not a sudden collapse, but a long, slow, deliberate withdrawal of every good thing until the account was empty. This inventory is the beginning of wisdom, and it is excruciating. It is the unwelcome gift of clarity, paid for with the currency of your absence. With the inventory of the past complete, his mind, desperate for an escape from the unchangeable present, lunges into the phantom universe of what if. This is not productive reflection, it is a form of psychological self-flagellation. It's the brain's attempt to rewind the tape and play it again, hoping for a different ending but knowing it's impossible. The what if. Questions are landmines that detonate one after another, paralyzing him in a state of agonizing hypotheticals. What if I had just answered that question honestly? What if I had held her a little longer that morning? What if I had admitted I was scared instead of getting angry? What if I had said I love you back just once and really meant it? Each question is a doorway to an alternate reality where he made a different, braver choice. For a fleeting second, he can almost feel the warmth of that parallel universe. He can see your smiling face in that timeline, the one where he was the man you needed him to be. But the warmth is immediately followed by the freezing cold of the reality he actually created. The gap between the what could have been and the what is a chasm he cannot cross, and he is left dangling over it. This paralysis is profound. He may be physically frozen on the couch or in his bed, unable to move, to eat, to sleep, as the phantom lives play out behind his eyes. He imagines you in someone else's arms already, with someone who doesn't fear intimacy, who appreciates what he took for granted. The thought is a physical blow. The what if game then turns inward, becoming even more vicious. What if I am just broken? What if I am incapable of this? What if this is my pattern forever, and I am destined to push away everyone who ever tries to love me? This is no longer about a single relationship. It's a crisis of identity. The what if questions dismantle the core story of his life. They suggest that his avoidant nature isn't a personality trait, but a pathology. It isn't a strength, but a life sentence. The paralysis comes from the sheer weight of these unrealized possibilities. There is no action to take, no word to say, no text to send that can fix this. The moment for those actions has passed. He is a spectator to the collapse of his own life, watching the replay on an infinite loop, knowing exactly which plays he should have called but didn't. This is the purgatory between the past he ruined and a future he cannot yet imagine. He is stuck in the what if, because accepting the what is means accepting his own culpability, his own limitations, and the finality of your departure. And that acceptance feels like a death. So he remains paralyzed, haunted by the ghosts of his own bad choices, living in a world of possibilities that expired the moment you decided not to come back. Beyond the specific memories and the paralyzing what-ifs lies a deeper, more insidious haunting. It's the ghost of the man he could have been with you. The authentic self he never had the courage to reveal. All those moments he held back a part of himself. The silly, unguarded, deeply feeling part now rise up to confront him. He is haunted not by what he did, but by what he didn't do. He didn't sing loudly in the car with you. He didn't cry in front of you when he felt overwhelmed. He didn't share his ridiculous secret dreams. He presented a curated, fortified version of himself, a museum exhibit where all the best pieces were locked away in storage. And now, the museum is closed, and the only visitor is him, finally walking through the empty halls and realizing how little was ever on display. This haunting is a confrontation with his own cowardice. He remembers the times he felt a surge of love for you, a pure, uncomplicated feeling. And instead of expressing it, he would find a flaw to focus on, create a problem, or simply retreat into silence. He sabotaged the very connection he craved because the risk of being truly seen felt more dangerous than the certainty of being lonely. But now the calculus has changed. The loneliness is no longer a certainty, it is a reality. And the risk of being seen seems, in retrospect, like a paltry price to pay for the chance to have kept you. The ghost of his authentic self follows him, pointing out every missed opportunity for genuine connection. Remember when she was sad and you had the perfect words to comfort her, but you stayed silent because you didn't want to get too involved? Remember when you were happy, truly happy, and you suppressed your smile because showing that much joy felt like losing control? This is the ultimate betrayal, the betrayal of his own heart. He didn't just lose you, he lost the version of himself that was possible with you. That man is dead, killed by his own hand, and his ghost is now the primary resident of this empty space. The haunting is a relentless reminder that he chose a facade over a life. He chose the safety of a half-existence over the terrifying, vibrant risk of a full one. The weight of this unrealized potential is heavier than the weight of any single argument or mistake. It's the crushing burden of a life not lived, a song not sung, a love not fully given. He is mourning two losses simultaneously. You, and the man he could have become if he had only been brave enough to love you properly. For years, perhaps for his entire life, fear has been his compass, his advisor, his God. He made decisions based on a simple primal algorithm. Avoid pain, avoid rejection, avoid engulfment. Fear was the invisible fence that kept him in a small but familiar pasture. He never stopped to question the fear. He never looked it directly in the face. He simply obeyed. But tonight, with the consequence of that obedience sitting in the silence like a thick fog, the fear has lost its power to direct him. Instead, it is transformed into a mirror, and the reflection is horrifying. He is forced to see that what he called caution was actually cowardice. What he labeled independence was isolationism. What he defended as self-reliance was a profound lack of faith in others and ultimately in himself. The fear is no longer an external force. It is him. He is the fear. His entire identity has been constructed around avoiding a phantom, and in the process, he has become the very thing he was running from, a person utterly alone, disconnected, and unloved. Staring into this mirror, he is confronted with the raw, ugly mechanics of his own psyche. He sees how he used logic to assassinate emotion, how he used space as a weapon, how he interpreted your need for connection as a threat to his autonomy. The mirror doesn't lie. It shows him the scared little boy hiding inside the man, the one who decided long ago that it was better to have nothing than to have something and lose it. But the punchline, the brutal, ironic twist, is that by trying to avoid loss, he guaranteed it. The fear mirror reflects this paradox back at him with blinding clarity. He is not the victim of a cruel world or an incompatible partner. He is the architect of his own emptiness. This realization is a psychological death. The ego, the defended self, cannot survive this level of exposure. It begins to crack and dissolve under the glare of this unforgiving truth. The stories he told himself, the justifications, the blame, they all wither in this light. He is left naked, with no armor, no defenses, just the stark, terrifying truth of his own role in this disaster. This moment is the absolute rock bottom of the avoidance journey. It is the point where the pain of staying the same finally, cataclysmically, exceeds the fear of changing. The fortress of avoidance is not built with bricks of stone, but with the flimsy, combustible material of excuses. A whole lexicon of self-justification has populated his internal monologue for years. I'm just not built for relationships. I need my space. They're too needy. If it's meant to be, it shouldn't be this hard. I love them, but I'm not in love with them. These are the incantations he used to ward off the spirit of true intimacy. They were his shield and his sword. But on this first night you don't come back, that shield shatters. That sword turns to dust in his hand. Every single excuse is paraded in front of him by his newly awakened conscience, and each one is exposed as the hollow, pathetic lie it always was. I'm not built for relationships is revealed as I am too terrified to do the work that relationships require. I need my space translates to, I am unwilling to make room for another person's humanity in my life. They're too needy really means their normal human desires for connection trigger my own deep-seated fear of inadequacy. The mental acrobatics he performed to maintain his victimhood now seem absurd. He was the one holding the gun, but he always blamed you for flinching. As these excuses crumble, they leave a vacuum, a silent, empty space where his entire defense system used to be. There is nothing left to blame. He can't blame you for leaving. He gave you every reason to. He can't blame fate or bad luck. He was an active, willing participant in the destruction. The crumbling of excuses is a silent, internal collapse more devastating than any external event. It is the death of his alibi. He is left standing over the corpse of his own justification, guilty as charged, with no one to sentence him but himself. This is a critical turning point. Without the excuses, there is no going back to the old story. He can no longer pretend. The lies that kept him safe have become the poison that is killing him. The ash of his burned-down excuses is bitter, but it is fertile ground. For the first time, something real can be planted here. The truth. The dust has settled. The inventory is complete. The excuses are ash. The fear has been seen for what it is. He stands now at the most critical juncture of his life, a crossroads defined by a single defining choice. One path is familiar. It leads deeper into the fortress. He can double down. He can tell himself that this pain proves he was right all along. Love is torture, and he will never risk it again. He can build the walls higher, make the moat deeper, and become a permanent resident of his own solitude. He can harden his heart into a monument to his own pain. This path offers the cold comfort of the known. It is the path of the wound becoming the identity. The other path is uncharted, terrifying, and raw. It leads through the door he has always kept locked. It means walking out of the fortress and into the vulnerable, uncertain wilderness of real human connection. It requires him to pick up the shattered pieces of his self-image and assemble them into something new, something more honest. It demands that he take the brutal lessons of this night and use them as fuel for transformation. This path means finally feeling the grief, the regret, the shame, not as enemies, but as teachers. It means accepting full 100% responsibility for the destruction he caused, not to flagellate himself, but to claim his own power to build something different next time. This is the choice between a living death and a painful rebirth. He cannot unknow what he has learned tonight. He cannot unfeel the depth of this loss. He can only choose what to do with the wreckage. Will he use it to fortify his prison or as the foundation for a new home? The first night you don't come back is his reckoning. What happens next is his resurrection. Tonight, in the crushing weight of that silence, a soul has been brought to its knees. This is not a story of a broken heart. It is the story of a shattered illusion, the illusion that we can navigate the profound, messy, beautiful risk of love from a safe distance. The avoidant in that empty space is not mourning just the loss of a person, but the catastrophic failure of a lifelong strategy. He is confronting the terrifying truth that the walls he built to keep pain out were the very things that sealed him inside it. This moment, as agonizing as it is not an ending. It is a brutal, necessary beginning. It is the moment the seed of self-awareness, planted in the barren soil of fear, finally cracks open. It has to break open to grow. The pain he feels is the price of admission to his own life. It is the cost of waking up from the trance of avoidance and seeing, with stunning, horrifying clarity, the architect of his own loneliness. If you are the one who walked away, know this: your absence was the final critical lesson he may have needed to learn. It was the shock to the system that his soul required to break free from its self-imposed prison. Your love was not the problem, it was the medicine he was too afraid to swallow. By choosing yourself, by refusing to participate in the dance of pursuit and distance any longer, You gave him the greatest gift of all, the gift of consequence. And if you see yourself in this portrait of the avoidant, if these words feel like a fire in your own chest, then understand this pain is your calling. This emptiness is your canvas. The story does not have to end here in the ruins of the fortress. The realization of your own role in this is not a life sentence. It is your key. It is the moment you stop being a victim of your fears and start becoming the student of your own heart. The path forward is through the vulnerability you have spent a lifetime running from. It requires a courage you may not believe you possess. The courage to feel deeply, to communicate honestly, to need other people, and to risk being seen, truly seen in all your flawed and magnificent humanity. It means trading the cold comfort of control for the unpredictable, vibrant heat of real connection. The first night they don't come back is the end of the old world. What you build in the dawn that follows is entirely up to you. You can build a taller fortress, or you can build a longer table. You can let this pain define you, or you can let it refine you. Choose the refinement. Choose the vulnerability. Choose life. Thank you for having the courage to lean into this difficult conversation. True transformation begins not in the comfort zone, but right at the edge of it, in the raw and honest places. If this resonated with you, if it struck a chord deep within, then your journey has already begun. Now, take this awareness and take one step, just one, towards connection, towards honesty, towards the life you are meant to live. Go out there and claim it. I believe in you.